Unicorns Talk is a weekly podcast where we discuss the ups and downs of the human experience, from personal growth to romantic relationships and everything in between. This show is for life livers, life lovers, and life enhancers. My name is Latrice Sampson Richards, your life enhancement coach, and together we're going to laugh, love, and learn to maneuver all of life's little messes. Let's go. Everybody, it's Latrice Sampson Richards here, your life enhancement coach, and welcome to episode 4 of Unicorns Talk. As usual, I'm super excited to be here with y'all today. I'm really looking forward to the topics that we have that I have lined up to discuss with y'all today. Life has been kind of crazy for me. I'm moving next week, and so I've just been packing and working real hard. So I'm trying to get caught up on things, because next week is going to be super crazy, and just trying to get as much as I can get done this week, because I don't want to, I've been really working on my consistency, and I definitely don't want to miss a week with y'all. So I'm working extra hard this week, trying to make it all happen, and I appreciate you for tuning in and making it all worthwhile. It really does mean a lot. So, and I really enjoy doing this. So I'm looking forward to it. So, all right. Today's topic, we're going to be talking about boldness, and being bold, and the act of being bold. I'm really looking forward to that. And then we're also going to have a reality check today, talking about Shelia and Nate Duhon from Married at First Sight. If you've ever seen this show, then you already know. All right, so I'm really looking forward to it. Let's get started. Last week, a friend of mine, I was talking to a friend of mine, he called me, and he's kind of been going through some life transitions and things like that. And so we were talking, I was just kind of coaching him through that, not as his official coach, because I don't coach friends and family, but really, kind of as a friend, and just who just so happens to be a coach. So anyway, we were talking, and he was just kind of talking about some of the fears that he has around this transition that he's in his life, and that he really would like to be able to move his life forward, but he has so much fear. And he said to me, "Man, I wish I was bold like you." And that kind of, I don't know, it caught me off guard a little bit, I think, because I guess I've never really considered myself bold. And so I asked him, what do you mean by that? What does that mean, being bold like me? And he was saying, you come up with something that you want to do, and you go out there and you get it and you make it happen, and you just fearless, and just kind of this go-getter kind of attitude, and putting yourself out there, making things happen, and being successful and things like that. And it really made me start to think about where I am in my life, and the reality of where I am in my life. And I told him, one of the biggest fallacies I think that the world sells us is that this idea of, grass is greener on the other side. For some reason, they always make us believe, or for some reason we believe, that other people have it easier than we do, when in reality, everybody have their own shit that they're going through. You cannot measure your life, or what's successful, or what what your happiness looks like, can't be measured by somebody else's measuring stick, because you never know what doubts and fears that somebody else is carrying. I told him, if you follow me on Facebook for my other for my blog, the Black Unicorn Project, then you know that I am really working on consistency and really trying to put my best foot forward, but also like just creating a consistent footprint as I build my business. And so consistency has been a real struggle for me, and a big part of that I think has been around some of the fears that I have about being good enough and being helpful, because I definitely want to be helpful to people and things like that. And so like I was telling him, you can't, it may seem like on the outside like I have it all together, but I am like not all together, let me tell you. I don't think anybody is, and I think putting that on display and saying that is strength. There's strength in that. There's strength in that level of vulnerability. You never know what doubts or fears somebody else is carrying. I have fears. I have negative thoughts just like anybody else. I have times when I feel really, really confident in my abilities, and I always feel confident in my abilities. I know for a fact that I am damn good at my job. So that's never really been like a question for me. But sometimes I do have doubts about my ability to run a business, or, my marketing style, or even like doing this podcast. Like, I've been talking about doing this podcast for years, y'all. Years. And it's just now really manifesting because I decided that I was not going to allow fear to hold me back anymore. That the fact that I have that fear now motivates me to go hard and to put it all out there and leave it all on the table, as it were, to just put my best foot forward any and every time that I have an opportunity to do that. You know what I'm saying? And so for me, listen, everybody got issues. Everybody have things that they're dealing with. And boldness is really just courage mixed with action. And if you listen to my last podcast, I think it was, then you know that courage is to tell the story of who you are with your whole heart. So to tell the story of who you are with your whole heart. And so when you take that level of vulnerability and courage in telling your story, being who you are, being authentic, and you mix that and you combine that with action, planned action, that's what boldness is. Boldness is saying, this is who I am. This is what I bring to the table. This is what I have to offer. Now watch me work. And it's as simple and as complex as that. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. What do y'all think about boldness? I say, I feel like you have to mold your own bold, like you can't take other people's idea of what it means to be bold and apply that to your life. You have your own unique brand of boldness. Everybody has it. Everybody has it within them. It exists, in the fabric of who you are. And so you do your bold better than anybody else can. And you just have to find a way to believe in that and have the courage to put yourself on display and take action, take action. So at the end of the conversation, what I ended up telling him was get off your ass and do something, and stop being afraid of failing or being afraid of being successful, because you comparing yourself to me and where I am. Because guess what? I'm not where I want to be. I'm a long way from where I want to be, from where I see my life going. I have 2 vision boards on my wall that I use, one for my marriage and one for my career. And both of those have unfulfilled destinies on them. So any boldness that you may see from me is really me having the courage to take action and move one step closer toward my goals. I mean, even this podcasting, I'm getting better, I think, at doing the podcast and stuff, but this is foreign to me. This is something new, and I'm only on episode 4. So I'm still learning. I'm learning how to use the equipment. I'm learning how to use the software. I'm learning how to get the best quality. I'm learning how to tailor my topics. I listen to these things over and over and over. I'm doing research and trying to figure out like what's the best way to present this. And I mean, I am constantly growing. I'm still figuring this out. So if you look at me doing this, and you say, "Oh wow, she got it all together," and in the background, I'm like barely holding it together, like, well, not barely holding it together. I mean, I'm doing a little bit better than barely, but y'all get what I'm saying. you know I'm figuring it out one step at a time. I'm trying to find my way through this the best way that I can, and that's my brand of bold. It comes out the way bold looks for me. So what does bold look like for you? That's the real question. Not what you think bold looks like based on what you see from other people. What does your bold look like? All right. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on boldness. What does your brand of bold look like? What is it that you bring to the table? What is it that you have to offer? And what actions are you taking to manifest those things? All right. All right, so that's it for the boldness conversation. And to my homie out there, I mean, I have high hopes for him. I think he's going to be good. He's highly intelligent. He has a beautiful, beautiful, amazing family. And so I think he's going to be good. And, I'm going to be pushing him, not as his coach, but as his friend who just so happens to be a coach. All right? Okay, all right. Now it's time for reality check. This week's reality check goes to Shelia Duhon from Married at First Sight. I love this show, you guys. I don't know if y'all watch the show or not. If you don't, you need to get your life, please. But because it's a really good show, but it's very interesting. Really quickly, Married at First Sight is like a social experiment. It's based on a social experiment where 3 couples are matched by 3 relationship experts. I think like one is a pastor, one is like a sex expert or something like that, and then, or a sex therapist rather, and then the other one is a sociologist. And so they match they pair these 3 couples based on all kind of data and information that they get about the person from filling out assessments and things like that. And then those people get married at first sight. So the first time they meet each other is at the altar on their wedding day, which is crazy. And at first, I'm not going to lie, one of my friends, when I was living in Cuba, one of my friends there was really into the show, and she got me into watching the show. And at first I was like, I don't know, because they were not doing a good job of matching people. But I have to admit, this season I actually did agree with all 3 matches. And so it's very interesting to watch as they, like over the course of 8 weeks, they have 8 weeks to kind of get to know each other and figure out what it is to be married to a stranger. We get to watch that. And at the end of that 8 weeks, they have to decide if they want to stay together or get divorced. So that's the show, like in a nutshell. That was a really good synopsis, actually. But anyway, so that's the show. So there's always one black couple. So the black couple this season is Nate and Shelia Duhon, and I actually really like Nate and Shelia together. They have some issues. They have been having some issues, which is what we're going to talk about today, because I think we all can learn from the issues that they're having, because we see it in our relationships, like everyday relationships, my own included. But what I really like about Nate and Shelia is that, it was obvious from the first time that they met each other, from the first time that they saw each other at the altar, that there was a chemistry between the 2 of them. And at the end of the day, I really feel like, you can grow in love with someone, but I really feel like you cannot force chemistry. Like just that instant connection. not everybody is going to have it. You can grow in love with somebody, but I just think that there's something really special about that instantaneous kind of connection when you can have that chemistry with somebody. So anyway, it was obvious from day one, minute one, second one, millisecond one, that Nate and Sheila had chemistry with each other, that they had some type of connection. And so, but it didn't take very long for them to start kind of having conflict as well, which can be a downside of having that type of passion, that type of intense, strong connection, is that just as hard as, or just as strong as the positive side of the connection is, the negative side of the connection can be really bad as well, or just as strong, if you don't learn how to keep it in check and how to moderate it. Okay, and I think that they're still learning. So anyway, last week, I think it was episode 15, Nate and Sheila had a big argument, one of many, but I think this was the biggest that they've had. And the long story short is that Nate was, I don't know, out and about somewhere, and so Sheila called him, and he rejected the call, and he followed up with a text message that said, I'm playing a game or finishing up a game on my phone right now. I'll call you right back. So he was playing spades. Now, anybody that know anything about spades knows that you do not interrupt somebody's spades game. But I have to be honest, I think I would have been upset as well if my husband had sent me a text like that or something. You know, I don't like it when my husband doesn't answer the phone for me, but my husband doesn't play spades, I don't think, so that's not an issue for us, but you get what I'm saying. Sheila got extremely upset, and when he tried to call her to get in the house because he didn't have a key for some reason, there's a lot of mystery around this story. It's a lot of pieces that are missing, but for whatever reason, he doesn't have a key. They lost one of the keys, so he couldn't get inside of the house. And so he's calling her and calling her and calling her. She's not answering. He's getting pissed. And then when she finally does answer, she says something like, you know, you didn't have time to answer for me, so now I don't have time to answer for you, which is hashtag Queen Petty, Petty Betty, all that good stuff. Extremely petty. Really more immature. I think what we call petty is really immaturity. But anyway, I digress. And so when she finally did let him in the house, he found out that she was in the shower, which I have thoughts about that. And the argument ensued. So they were arguing. She called him a bitch. Like, she called him a bitch. That is so serious. And he followed up in basically bringing up something from her past. Again, we don't really know what was said because Sheila is not very comfortable with the documentation aspect of being on a reality show, which, you know, side eye to that. But Sheila is not comfortable with the documentation aspect of being on the show. And so it's just a lot of secrecy in terms of not letting the audience know exactly what's going on. But he brought up something from her past, and it hurt her feelings or upset her. It was a big, you know, huge blowout. She actually packed up her things and left the house, said she wanted a divorce. He was trying to apologize, like all of that good stuff. And Sheila wasn't trying to hear it. In the end, they did work it out, and we'll get to that as well. They did work it out at the end of the day. But I want to talk a little bit about Sheila and the behaviors that she's displaying. I want to say that I don't fault her for being upset with him. Like I said, I think I would have been kind of pissed off too if my husband, you know, ignored my call so he could play spades on his phone. Like, really, Nate? What's that? But I also understand that sometimes things happen and sometimes people don't always think things through, myself included. Okay. So I don't fault her for being upset about it. I think the way she handled it, though, was horrible, horrible, horrible. She was in the shower, and it's not clear as to like the timeline or whatever, but I just have a really strong feeling that she saw him calling when he was trying to get in the house, and she decided to get in the shower. I think she is just that immature and just that petty, emotionally immature and petty. And so Again, I mean, I'm not there, so I don't know for sure, but uh, that's what it is. I think that was her first point of intervention in terms of things that she could have done wrong, differently rather. Obviously, Nate could have just answered her phone call, and who's to say whether any of that would have taken place, everything that followed up. But I think her first point of intervention would have been to communicate with her husband when he hurt her feelings or upset her or made her feel rejected, which is what I really think it was. I think that she needed to have communicate that with him. Whenever I'm working with couples, I always tell them, or not just couples, but anybody, I always really stress communication, because I think communication is one of the most important tools that you have in any relationship, especially a marriage or a romantic relationship or partnership. Okay? The rule of thumb that I always teach my clients is that you assume nothing and you communicate everything. Everything needs to be communicated. It doesn't matter how small it is, you need to communicate that with your partner. You can't assume that somebody knows how you feel or that they understand that they hurt your feelings or something like that. It doesn't matter how long you've been with that person. You can't assume anything. If you're feeling something, if you need something, you have to communicate that to them. And I think Sheila and Nate's biggest breakdown is in communication. They really struggle with communication. Both of them really struggle significantly when it comes to communication. And I think the majority of the issues that they're seeing in their marriage stems from poor or lack of communication. Okay? The second thing that I wanted to point out is that, it's obvious to me on the outside looking in, obviously, that Sheila is really trying to push Nate away. And I don't think she's doing it intentionally. I think it's a defense mechanism. It's clear. We don't know a lot about Sheila's history in terms of relationships or just like her life history and things like that. But what we do know is that, Sheila is a really loving, nurturing, giving person. I mean, she took his brother in as like a part of the family, which he is a part of the family, but you get what I'm saying? Like his brother lives with them. And so she took him in and, treated him like he was her own little brother without any issues. And you can tell that, she has a big heart and that she's a nurturer and that she loves on him and things like that. And those things are important to Nate. And so I would imagine that she has had several experiences in the past where that love and that care and that nurturing was taken for granted, repeatedly even. And so she has built up these defense mechanisms in an effort to try to protect herself from getting hurt, because I'm pretty sure she's been hurt several times in the past. The problem with that is that the situation that she's in currently no longer calls for that level of defense mechanisms. You see what I'm saying? And I think a lot of us fall into this trap. I know I did. Before I met my husband, I had a series of unfortunate relationships, we'll say. And I just got to a point where I didn't even know if I could continue to put myself out there like that. But at the same time, I didn't want to change who I am, like it was just a really weird place to be in. And I think a lot of us find ourselves in that place where we take the past hurts and past experiences that cause us to have to build up these walls, cinder block walls with concrete and reinforced rebar and all of this other stuff. And we hold those things against the people that are currently in our lives. And it's not fair. It's just not fair. I don't blame her for creating or, developing that defense mechanism. That defense mechanism for her, as is for most of us, was bred out of a necessity. She needed to be able to protect herself in that way at some point in time in her life. But it's not fair for her to hold those things against her husband and to interact with him as if he is the perpetrator or the cause of those defense mechanisms going up in the first place. He wasn't even there. And we do this a lot in our relationships. I think many of us do, especially as women. We put our everything into something and we don't get back what we think we should get back, or we get back nothing but hurt and pain. And so we build up these walls, and then we start assuming that every person that comes after is just going to end up hurting us the same way that all of the other ones did. And so we start treating them in ways that cause them to hurt us. Okay? Now, let me be clear. I'm not saying that you're the blame for any of the negative things that have happened in your life, but I'm also not saying that you're not. We have to be willing to take some responsibility for the experiences that we have had in our lives. Even if that means this is all I know, this is what I was taught, these are the decisions that I have made. And guess what? I can do something different. I can choose to interact in this relationship differently than I've interacted in past relationships. I can choose to be with somebody that has the characteristics that I say I'm really looking for, instead of continuing to go for the same person over and over and over and over and over, just in a different body, just with a different look, a different name. Same person. Okay, so we have to be willing to take some responsibility. I think one of the things that I love most about Shelia and Nate is that they were matched based on their spirituality and their faith. So they have a lot in common there. They really both believe, they're both Christian, and they also both believe that God should be in the center of their marriage. And so that faith and that commonality that they have with each other tends to pull them back together. And I think that is an amazing thing, honestly. I really like Nate, even though Nate does some boneheaded things sometimes. I still like him, and here's why. Because Nate fights for his marriage, and I think Sheila needs that. She needs to know that who she is enough. She needs to know that what she brings to the table is sufficient, and she needs to know that her husband is there for her and is willing to love her and love on her and to love her through all of her healing and the letting down of her defense mechanisms. And that's important. That's important. I tell people all the time, my husband is not perfect. I love my husband with everything in me. He's not perfect. I'm not perfect either. Trust me. Ask him. Okay, my husband is not perfect, but I know that there's no such thing as pushing him away. I know that he's here because this is where he wants to be. And that makes all the world of difference. So Nate continues to show up for Sheila. Even when she's trying to push him away as hard as she can, he keeps fighting. He keeps fighting. And ultimately, I think that helps her in her process. Okay? So, like I said, at the end of the day, they worked it out, and they both apologized, and they hugged it out and everything like that. I think they're going to stay married. I have, really high hopes for this couple. I think that they are a really good fit for each other. And I think the longer that they are together, I think, the better that the relationship, the stronger the relationship is going to get. Sheila has a lot of growth and healing that needs to happen. And so does Nate, to be honest. Nate has a lot of growth that needs to happen as well. But I like their union. I like the bond that they have with each other because they are both committed to the relationship, and they are both willing to do whatever it takes to make the relationship successful. And that's all you need, I think, sometimes. Well, that's not all you need, but that's a big part of what you need. All right? And that's something I can't teach. I could teach the skills, but I can't teach the desire to make the marriage work or to make the relationship work. And they have that. So that's today's reality check. Sheila, I would say communicate to your husband, communicate with your husband, allow him to love on you. Let him see all of the ugliness and the dirtiness and the sadness and things like that, along with the happiness, and let him love on you and let him love you through the pain and through the fears and through the healing. And to Nate, I would say keep hope alive, homie. Keep hope alive. All right. All right, so that's reality check for today. Nate and Sheila Duhon. I love that show, Married at First Sight. I think they have one more episode left. They're going to make their decisions on whether they're going to stay together or get a divorce. And I'm rooting for all of the couples, but there's one couple in particular that I don't think is going to make it. But that's just me. We'll see what happens. So that's all I got for y'all today. Today's show went by really quick. It felt like it went by really quickly. I don't know. You tell me. I guess time flies when you're having fun. So head on over to the website, LatriceSampsonRichards.com. Leave a comment. Let me know what you thought about today's episode. What are your thoughts on boldness, and also defense mechanisms and past healing from past hurts and relationships? Do you watch the show? Do you watch Married at First Sight? Who's your favorite couple? Let me know. If you haven't already, please follow me on Instagram at Latrice Sampson Richards, Facebook at Latrice Sampson Richards, Twitter at Sam Richards. And share, like, follow, please. I would greatly appreciate it. And that's it. That's all I got for y'all today. I appreciate you for tuning in. Thank you so much for the love and the support and just, letting me live out my dreams and show you what my boldness looks like. I love y'all for that. All right. And I appreciate you. Be well.